Good morning. Now I came to a decision the other day. Sleep mats, particularly inflatable sleep mats. A couple that I've got. The Trekology UL80, very comfortable. This is actually the second one. I had my first one and it lasted 4 camps, maybe 5. Started leaking. Didn't have a puncture as such. The actual seam started to let go down the side. Fair enough, Trekology was great. Sent me out a replacement, no problem at all. This replacement, it's heavier than the original one. The sizes are exactly the same. I think they have upped the thickness of the material. It ended up lasting 6, 7 camps maybe. This now also has a puncture. One of the other ones, the Unigear, the P3, great sleep mat. Probably the most comfortable thing I've ever slept on when I've been on the floor. Really, really like it. It did 5, 6 camps, something like that. Now goes down in the night. Last 3 hours maybe, something like that, before it gets uncomfortable. Now both of these I've babied, especially since the experience of the first one of these I had. I thought maybe it's me. So whenever I'm using this type of mat, I've always got at least a tarp sort of doubled over on the floor underneath it. Obviously a lot of the time it's inside a tent, and even then I have a tarp underneath the tent floor, so there's always been at least a couple of layers under them, and quite often in a bivvy bag as well, so yet another layer. They're still failing, and it's starting to annoy me. Not only is it uncomfortable, but if ever I'm doing that sort of setup, it's always in the back of the mind, oh, I hope the sleep mat's going to stay up, because there's nothing worse than a crappy night's sleep. So it was time for a change. Let me show you. It's camp bed time. Now, Eurohike one. Now there's plenty on the market. Prices vary dramatically. And because I didn't know how I was going to get on with it, I went cheap. There's no surprise. I found this online for £13. So I thought, well, that's cheap enough that if it's a raving bloody disaster, I've not really lost much. To be fair, I'm quite impressed. Simple enough to put together. It's pretty comfortable, as is. The only downside I can see really, obviously, is the pack size and the fact that it's 3 kilos. But I'm prepared to carry that if I'm going to sleep, as opposed to going lighter and having a crappy night. The only other considerations is winter time. I'm off the floor, so I'm not sure insulation wise. Say I've never used one, so 2 things have sprung to mind. I've got this, again, a bit bulky, but it's light, and it's the same size. Now, with me being a bit of a wiggler overnight, I think I'd probably have to sort of bungee each end on to try and keep it in place, maybe. I don't know, so I haven't tried this yet. But a little bit of extra cushioning, not that I think I really need it, but of course a level of insulation. The other option is my hybrid sleep mat. Now, some of you might have seen this, might not. It's basically one of the NATO mats, but there's actually another mat under there. if you look online and go really, really, really cheap, you get the cheap blue, almost like yoga mats, are centimetre thick. Useless really for camping, but they've got the foil reflective on one side, meant to help with insulation. How much? That's debatable. I've basically stuck two together. So I would sleep on the NATO mat side, but I've got the cheap one underneath, so I've got two layers, and the silver reflective is in the middle, like a sandwich. Seems to work quite well. And again, it's this length. I could bungee that on, you know, tie it on, whatever. So that's what I'm thinking. The next time I'm ground dwelling, it's extra weight and it's extra bulk. But I'm fed up with just having crappy nights on the floor. I do like sleeping under a tarp, and I really like using tents. But if you're not sleeping, it just spoils the whole event. Hopefully, this will be the answer. If it works out well, maybe in the future, I could look to getting a more expensive one, because I haven't really researched it, but I dare say if you go up in price, you probably can get lighter. But I thought for 13 quid, it's worth it just to try out the theory. We'll see on the next camp.